I think the mentality that I had at the time was, I have nothing to lose. If I start this company and it fails, okay, then I'll just start another company, and there's no risk. What is your risk? Your risk is you waste 2 years of your life. You get a lot of experience in the meantime. My name is Tim Hwang. I'm the founder and CEO of Fiskalnote and chairman of various other startups. My parents had come from a very traditional background, coming from Korea in the 80s and to the United States. And their focus was really trying to create a very stable career, right? And so for me, at least, my parents really wanted me to go to law school, and they really wanted my sister to go to medical school. And that was really sort of like the Korean American dream, which was to come to the US, have a very, very stable lifestyle for their children, and then have them sort of, live a certain type of life. And so there's definitely a lot of conflict at home thinking about, what I wanted to do. Both my parents, who had done graduate school degrees, they put a very heavy emphasis on education, and then their firstborn son wants to go do a startup. And that, of course, is like almost like a complete bomb that happens in the house. And so, I didn't want to be confined to, a particular type of career, a particular type of pathway. And I was very, very focused on trying to carve my own career, I think, in the future. So from a stereotype perspective, I would say, as I mentioned, there's a lot of these stereotypes around Asian Americans not being good at leadership and whatnot. And so I'll tell you a funny story. When I was first starting Fiskalnote, I was probably 21 or 22 years old at the time, and I was at my desk in my office. And there was a bunch of these lawyers that came to our office that were potentially customers of ours. And then they came in and they looked at me and they said, where's the CEO? Why is the CEO not here? I said, because I guess they thought I was the intern or something. Oftentimes, people come up to me in a conference setting or in a big business meeting or something, even to this day, and they come up to me and they say, "Oh, Tim, your English is so good." But the reality is that I was born in the US and I grew up in the US, went to college in the US. I don't know if there's any way of overcoming it, but I think ultimately you just get used to it. And as a Korean American, I think that you think a lot about, what value add I can bring as a Korean American in American society, and then vice versa. What value add can I bring as a Korean American in Korean society? And so that's how I kind of overcome it, by thinking about, what is my unique identity and what unique value can I bring into society? So Fiskalnote was a company that I founded in late 2013, early 2014. And we had this idea, a very simple idea, to take every law and every regulation in every court case in all 198 different countries and make it instantly searchable. And the business model is very simple. We would take this database and we would sell it to law firms, to companies, to government agencies on a subscription basis. People that had a lot of money that could only access the most high-priced lawyers. And then we could take the same information and we could give it to nonprofits and small businesses and other people that really wanted to access this information. And so to this day, Fiskalnote has almost 5,000 customers. US DOD, Pentagon, FBI, CIA, Federal Reserve, every single member of the House and the Senate and the US Congress, the White House, are all customers of Fiskalnote. We also have about half the Fortune 500. Major companies like Goldman Sachs, ExxonMobil, very, very large companies that are navigating a wide variety of legal and regulatory issues. Well, so Fiskalnote, was really born out of my own understanding of the political system. These are problems that I had when I was working on the Obama campaign or when I was a politician. I'll give you a very small example. When I was on the Board of Education, one of the things that we spent a lot of time doing was thinking about tax policy, education policy, curriculum policy, who had different power to make different changes. Did the legislature have the power to make those laws? Did the agencies and Department of Education have only those regulations and that regulatory authority? And that political kind of chaos essentially creates a lot of complexity, particularly in the US, where you have federal laws out of Washington, but then you also have 50 different states that pass their own laws. And then you also have 90,000 cities that pass their own laws. And so you could actually have a system where you have overlapping laws where the federal law doesn't map with the state law, is overlapping with the city law. And so there's this constant kind of complexity in thinking about what law to comply with, which regulations are the right regulations. And so I felt like actually this was the perfect problem for AI. Millions, if not billions of pages of text, analyze those laws very, very rapidly and ask very simple questions. And so that's really the beginning of how FiscalNote was started. So I started FiscalNote with two of my friends, my best friends essentially from school. I think we were maybe 21 or 22 years old at the time when we first started FiscalNote. And Jonathan, my co-founder, I think he had a job offer at Google. And then Gerald had a job offer at EY, an accounting firm. And they just didn't show up to the first day of work. And so, we basically all kind of got together and started this company together. So when we were in Silicon Valley, I think we grouped together about $6,000. This was all of our savings from summer jobs and internships and whatnot. We literally could not afford an apartment. The cheapest thing we could find was a motel room, a Motel 6 room. And it was something like $70 a night. And that was basically our first office. And every morning we'd wake up and we'd take turns in the shower. And so we'd go outside, to the park and we'd be coding there in the park. Because if we stayed in the room, all of our computer monitors get foggy and stuff. And so I think we were paying ourselves like $500 a month, which was enough to get the dollar menu at Burger King. And that's basically how we lived for almost a year. I guess it's kind of a romantic story, but it wasn't very romantic, when we were first starting. It was very painful. And we were working, 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, coding, calling customers. I think the mentality that I had at the time was, I have nothing to lose. If I start this company and it fails, okay, then I'll just start another company and another company. But when you're 21 years old, you have the whole world is in front of you and there's no risk. What is your risk? Your risk is you waste 2 years of your life. You get a lot of experience in the meantime. And so I felt like this was the best thing to do. Well, so Mark Cuban, the way I reached out to him actually was through cold email. So I literally went on Google and I typed in Mark Cuban email address. I just copied and pasted his email and I was like, Mark, my name is Tim. I just graduated from college. I have this idea. I'd like to pitch you on an investment. It was very short, almost 3-sentence email. And then he responds within 45 minutes, like, I'm very interested. We go back and forth and suddenly he's our first investor. You should never be afraid to cold email people. And to this day, I'll be very honest, even to this day, I still cold email people. If I want to meet with somebody, I just directly cold email them. And so 2019, 2020, post-COVID, the US government pushed very heavily in healthcare digitalization. And then starting in 2021, 2022, the US government pushed extremely heavily in the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, so things like electrification, renewable energy, electric vehicles. And then in 2023 to 2024, the US government's been very focused on defense-based AI and basically building in the context of the Ukraine war and the Israeli war, more AI-driven defense systems. And so as a result, President Trump and President Biden have pushed trillions of dollars into these three sectors. And so I took a step back in 2020, 2021, and I said, okay, I'm going to build three companies. First company, Nitra, post-COVID, basically to build digitalization tools for doctors and hospitals in the US. Amber, what we've done is we've created the first nationwide electric vehicle protection plan, insurance plan for EVs. So things like batteries, powertrains, air conditioning, high voltage electronics. The last company, Jericho Security, is a cybersecurity company. And basically what this company does is it's able to detect when hackers are using generative AI to do email phishing or voice phishing or deepfake phishing to try and basically hack companies or banks or hospitals. And so we basically built technologies to be able to help organizations fight back against phishing attacks that are using generative AI. I mentor Korean founders because there's so much potential. I really strongly believe that Korea is one of the strongest startup markets in the world, the strongest technology markets in the world. I think Korea can go toe-to-toe, compete directly against UK, Israel, Japan, any of these markets. Korea is like the envy of these startup ecosystems. Korea is one of the only markets, one of the very few markets where there's like multiple generations of startup founders and multiple founders that have gone public or exited their companies, that have access to global markets, global partnerships, and where global companies are very, very interested in collaborating with Korean companies. And so that combination does not exist in France, does not exist in the UK, barely exists in Israel, only for one sector. But in Korea is such a big opportunity that I think that people just need to take advantage of it overall, which is why I love talking to Korean founders and helping them kind of expand their businesses.
차세대 빌 게이츠라 불리신다 들었는데 마음에 든다, 안 든다. 그리고 이유는?
No, I definitely don't like that. I just everyone is their own individual, and I'm me.